welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us on this today's webinar, where we'll be introducing you to the KNX Home and Building Automation Standard, as well as some of the ABB KNX products. My name is Jarrett Ryan. I'm the ABB Brand Manager at Amber Technology, and hosting today's webinar is Ian Harding from ABB Australia. Ian is the KNX Product Manager and a certified KNX tutor. This is the first in a series of webinars to be co-hosted by ABB and Amber Technology. And these webinars will be recorded and uploaded to the Amber Tech YouTube channel and then distributed through our newsletters. So today's webinar is about 40 minutes long plus Q&A. So if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A, in the webinar Q&A section, and then we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. So with that, without any further ado, I'll just hand over. With that, I'll hand over to you, Ian. So it's over to you.
Thanks, Jared. And good afternoon, everyone. Glad to see you all here today. It's nice to have an audience on a Monday afternoon. Everybody's busy. Today I'm going to introduce you to KNX. What is it? How does it work? How does it go together? And what are the main reasons we use KNX and why do we like KNX? So what you do, I'll move on through my presentation, and the idea is that I can give you some information here and we can build on this as we go along. So here's my agenda. First of all, I'm going to talk a little about KNX and building automation. What is it? How does it hang together? Who is KNX? And what do they actually do? Then I'll talk a bit about a KNX installation. I want to give you an introduction to see how a KNX installation goes together and what do we do in a KNX installation in modern buildings. I'll talk again about security. Security is a very important subject these days. Everybody's afraid of hacks, and we all know what happens when installations get hacked. I'll briefly then talk about lighting control and efficiency. I'll give you some application areas in KNX projects. And at the very end then I'll circle back around and show you where you can get any further information if you need anything. So let's dash on ahead. We're all short for time. So KNX and building automation, what is it about and where did it come from? Well, in Europe before 1997, there was three main systems at play in Europe. And you can see here we had Batibus, we had EIBA, and we had the European Home Systems Association. There were three competing organizations and run by a lot of the big manufacturers. You can see Batibus is mainly driven by Schneider. EIBA was particularly dominant in the German markets, and ABB was a part of this for a long time and had a long history with it. And then you had the European Home Systems Association, which focused mainly on white goods and things like that, how we can automate our washing machines, our dishwashers, and all that sort of stuff. And we were all looking at these three different associations, and the head started thinking and then said, why are we fighting? Why are we struggling to win over customers when we can create one system that everything talks to and that we can all use and maintain? The idea then for KNX, and in 1997, there was a convergent process started, and the idea was, how can we make these three systems work together? So after much, I suppose, arguing and discussion, shall we say, it was decided to base everything on the European installation bus, and that was the standard to which all the other components then were going to work. And we looked at sort of things like, how can we configure it? What do we do with it? Is it dip switches? Is it PC configured? How are we going to do it? And what sort of media will we communicate with? Will we have RF? Will we have a twisted pair? Will we have IP? How is it going to do it? And then they sort of started the business of looking at a standardization. And one of the great things about KNX is from this early work, standardization was embraced at the very start of the thing. And we had IEC 14543, which has now become sort of known as the EIB KNX standard. And it's thanks to this work at the very start that we have that standardization. And this standardization guarantees the interoperability of all our KNX products. It's this work that means that with over 500 manufacturers now, you can guarantee that all of these products will work together on the KNX network. There's no problem. But also at that time, of course, we registered trademarks and looked at certification procedure for KNX devices. And if I bring that forward to today, us as ABB, if we want to make a new device, we make a new switch, a new relay, whatever you have, what we have to do is, first of all, we look at all the electrical specifications for it, and then we look at the software specifications, and we look at the standardizations. What do we have to do to make a KNX device? We will design our device, we will build it, we will test it. Then we send it to the KNX organization for certification. And again, thanks to this certification procedure that was developed back in 97, all KNX products now are certified by the KNX Association, and that gives a guarantee of quality and compatibility between all the devices. So having started that work in 97, in 99, the KNX Association was founded in Brussels with 9 founding members. And that evolved over time into the KNX organization. And the KNX organization has this mission to develop and promote KNX standards so it's recognized as the worldwide standard for building automation control. As I said, we have IEC 14543. In Australia, it's been adopted as a technical specification. We haven't got it to full standard yet, but that's down to we have to do a bit of work with the Standards Australia, and we're getting there. It's a slow process to try and get a standard adopted, and it takes time. Also, the KNX organization it works out of Brussels, and it's all about controlling the logo, the trademark, and looking at the quality and interworking of all the KNX products. So what they're involved in is certification, standardization, internationalization. We also look at the engineering tool software, ETS, which is the software that we use to program our KNX systems nowadays. As well as all this, they look at technical development, and we also have working groups put together. So you have working groups that will sit together and discuss the standards. They will discuss the certification. They will discuss the training and how we train new people to program KNX. All this stuff is developed out of Brussels and is controlled by the KNX organization, which guarantees that none of us manufacturers could take control of it and drive it the way we want to drive it. It's all controlled centrally, and we work it as well as we can after that. If you need any information on KNX, you'll find it at the KNX organization at knx.org. What's the main advantages? People always ask me, what's the main advantages of KNX? So why should I use it? I mean, there's lots of different systems out there. I can go to Bunnings, I can go anywhere, and I can get all these different systems that will do these nice things. Well, with KNX, what you're guaranteed is you have an international standard and it's future-proof. And a great example I have of that is that one of my colleagues now in ABB built a house many, many years ago. I think he built it back in about 2004. I wasn't even in Australia at that stage. And he KNX'd his house at that time. He put everything in, and it worked fine for 20 years. He had no problems. Everything was fine. But one day he came to me and he says, Ian, he said, I have a problem. One of my relays has failed. And I said, oh, okay. I said, have you got the project? He says he had the project. And I says, okay. So I took it off and I had a look at it. You can see there on the right, we're working now on ETS 6. So ETS 6 is the current version of ETS. This, believe it or not, was a version of ETS 2, which predates even any of my time in KNX. So I was left thinking about this, and I thought, okay, well, it should work. So I took his project, I imported it into ETS 6. I could see his full project, all his devices, so I knew immediately how everything was configured. We went and got a new device, a new 4-channel relay, programmed it similar to the one that had been in there previously, reinstalled it into a system, and it works to this day and is still working. And it's just a great way of looking at that. That's a project that's 16 years old. And you think of the average life of any of the big buildings we work in, they're 15, 20, 25 years. You are guaranteed that your building will be future-proof, and you'll always have a solution. These products will always be backwards compatible. And it's the product certification that KNX guarantees the interoperability and interworking. I won't go into all the details, but KNX defines the communication standards between all the devices. And because of that, once they're all certified and we all communicate the same way, it means we can all work together and everything works fine. It's great. And we also have the quality from the ISO 9000. We have the unique Manufacturer Independent Engineering Tool Software, ETS, as I previously mentioned. And the great thing about that is it's developed, maintained, and kept up to date by the KNX organization. So manufacturers cannot interfere with it. We cannot change it to work best for our products. It works for everybody's products. Okay. Importantly to remember then is that KNX supports many different media types. We can go over TP, which is the KNX cable, and it's twisted pair. We could use Powerline before, but Powerline was a way of putting KNX communication over the 240 volt cables in your house. We don't do that anymore. That is sort of dying, and is a dying method at this stage. I haven't seen any of that. And we have RF. Now, RF, unfortunately, is on 868 megahertz, was prohibited here in Australia. But we also have IP, and once I can put communications onto IP, I can get them onto Wi-Fi, and I can get them anywhere I want anyway. So we're sort of okay like that. Another huge advantage is that we can couple KNX with any other system we want. And frequently I see DALI, I see BACnet connecting to head-end HVAC systems. I see MeterBus, I see Modbus. We see all sorts of things interconnected with KNX nowadays. If you ever Google or do a search, whatever you want to talk to, you're guaranteed somebody out there has an interface for it. ABB's pedigree, of course, in KNX goes back a very, very long time as well. We started off with the first Sigma bus installations in 1983, which, yeah, was a long time ago, and I have never seen any of those ones. We were a founder member of the European installation bus, the EIB installation, back in 1990, and we launched it in Germany then in 92. So that's how far back we go with sort of KNX EIB products at this stage. We were, of course, one of the founding members in 99, and we're still involved today, and we will be involved into the future. It's a huge part of our business. It's what we spend a lot of time on. If you think about KNX, people often say to me, oh, it's not that big, it's not that big. Well, if you look globally, guys, which are full manufacturers, manufacturing over 8,000 products. And like I said, these products will all work together. They're all guaranteed to work together. With that, there's over 500 training centers in 190 countries. And at this moment, there's over 120,000 trained KNX partners. So if you go and do a KNX training course, you're looking at a KNX certification course. And let me just remind you that this is all controlled by the KNX organization. So they detail what we have to teach you in the course. I'm a certified tutor and I run courses, and we run a 4-day course. And you will spend sort of 2 days practically sitting there playing with a kit. I'll give you different tests, not different tests. I'll give you different projects to work on, different things to do. So you'll learn how KNX works. And then we'll do sort of 2 days on theory. And we sort of, between the 2 days theory and the 2 days practical, we sort of learn how KNX works and how everything goes together. And you get a good understanding. If I look then at the manufacturers, well, you name it, every manufacturer out there and all the big manufacturers certainly will have a presence in KNX at this stage. They all have KNX products, they all have KNX interfaces, and we can link to virtually. So when we look at the KNX installation, then we sort of have to think, where were we before and where are we going to? And if I look at a traditional installation, we have our distribution board with our power cables coming out of our distribution board. They go out to our switches, out to our lights. They go out to switches, out to blind controllers. They go out to control two-way switching. In some cases, we're powering PowerPoints, and you get the idea. We all know how it goes together. Now, that's fantastic. But when you start looking at bigger projects, and I've got a few of these projects myself, where we have many different manufacturers with different protocols and different systems. And how do we actually get them to talk together? Do we hardwire them? Do we use software? What way can we get these devices to talk together? And it can be tricky, it can be expensive and cost intensive. And I remember being on many jobs like this where I was working on my system works perfect. I go, okay, my system works perfect all the way to the gateway. The next guy comes in and says, well, my system works okay and everything works fine to the gateway, so I'm okay. The poor customer there is left sitting, okay, I'm paying for all you guys to be on site and we still can't get this working. Where's the issue? And I won't say we were left scratching our heads, but it took us a long time to figure out what the heck was happening and going on in this system. So when we look at that then, and we look at the general installation for a KNX network, in a KNX network, all our sensors and relays communicate with each other over the KNX bus. Now the KNX bus is just a 2-wire bus, and every device we want on the KNX network must be connected to it. So in effect now we have 2 networks. We have our communication network and we have our power network for any of the devices that need 230 volts. The advantage now for the end customer is that there is one communication protocol for all these devices, and it's just up to us as the different manufacturers and installers to agree how we're going to share and communicate on this bus. I had a great job we did in Wales a number of years ago, where we were doing all the lighting control and window control throughout a building. And we had another manufacturer come in and they were doing the blind control and the blind installation. So the 2 integrators sat down, they had a quick discussion over how we're going to segregate the system, how it's going to work together on the one bus, and how we can make the project for the customer. I think it was about an hour's meeting. So everybody was happy. We went off, programmed the system, got it all working, installed it, commissioned it, and everybody was happy. And it was simple as ABC. Once we discussed how we were going to do it, how we were going to put the whole system together, it was quick, easy, and the customer got what they wanted at the very end. It made it very, very simple for them. Another thing we look at is that we left-hand side, it's very common to go into a building and see multiple switches on the wall. We have our overhead projector, we have our lights, we have maybe different sections on the lights, we have our air conditioning, and you go up into the attic and you have a rat's nest of cables with all the communication between all these things. And we can do that all on one KNX device. We can take one KNX switch, we can do heating, controlling, blinds, we can do everything. And communications is on our red and black twisted pair cable. The other example on the right-hand side, we have, I've seen this in so many offices or consultants' offices where things are taped to the wall and you have a big notice on the wall telling you how to operate everything and what to do. We can simply replace that with one touch screen. That one touch screen then has everything on it, all our functionality, and it's easy to use. And how does it all communicate? Well, we have our little green cable, and our little green cable connects all our devices. Everything is connected onto our green cable. Communications is on the black and the red core, and all of our devices just have a push connection. It's just a simple push connection onto all the devices. Some devices may need additional power. We have yellow and white if we need 24-volt DC to any of our other devices. It's quite simple and easy. The network layout then is quite simple. I'll show you that in a second. But with the system architecture, we can build huge networks with KNX. If I look at the simplest, a simple KNX network is called a KNX line. So a KNX line consists of up to 255 devices. This slide's a bit out of date, sorry for that. But we can generally, up to about 255 devices on a line. Then we can define a KNX area. So one area can link up to 15 lines. So we have 15 times 255 devices. And with that, again, we can go further and we can link up to 15 areas. So with all that number of devices, then you can see we can build huge projects. And we've done airports, we've done prisons, we've done big schools. Very, very large projects, because what you have to remember that one switch is a device. One 24-channel relay is one device on our network. And when you think of that, how many 24-channel relays are, we can have a 2-channel maybe DALI gateway that controls up to 128 lights. That is just one device on our network. So we have plenty of scope to expand and cover any project or any type of size. And when you look at how KNX arranges itself into lines and areas, it's perfectly suited then to sort of building structures and how buildings are laid out. In the example here, I have a simple building with an east wing and a west wing. You can see we have our backbone going around the building is on our LAN. So that's easy. That can go wherever we need it to. And generally LANs are everywhere with switches everywhere. And we just have lines on each floor then, you know, so we can have up to 255 devices in each floor in this project. So I can have switches, I can have presence detectors, I can have blind controllers, heating actuators, DALI light controllers, relays, dimmers, you name it. I can introduce them all onto this project. We can program them and everything will function perfectly within the building. How do we wire it? Well, we wire it any way we want, really. We have T structures, we have star wiring, we have line. Whatever way we want to wire this KNX project, we can connect it all together. And as long as we have good electrical connectivity on our line, all of our devices can communicate to each other. The only thing we don't wire is we do not wire a loop. We don't wire a loop to prevent telegram repetition on the lines. So that's the only thing we have to remember with KNX is we do not wire a loop. I've seen many projects where guys will wire a cable, it'll go out around the floor and come back, and they might just connect one end and keep the other side. Just in case there's a cable damage or anything like that, they'll just keep the other cable aside. Then we get these circuit diagrams, and this is sort of typically what you'd see in, you know, this would be project documentation. You'd have different sort of just showing what's in the project and what's wired to each channel and how it all goes together. So it's just typical sort of documentation that you may see. And remember, there's over 8,000 products available. We have temperature sensors, we have room controllers, we've blind controllers, we've all different types of panels that you can ever think of. We have 4-inch panels up to 10-inch, up to 12-inch panels, number of different devices. We have capacitive switches. I could keep going on and on and on. You get the idea. We have enough product here to control any building you want. And as I said, it's all programmed and controlled now by ETS 6, which is the latest version of ETS released by the KNX organization. And that's the only caveat, is that you have to buy ETS from the KNX organization. They license it, they control it. But once you buy the ETS 6 license, you'll get updates forever and ever and ever. As long as ETS 6 is updated, you will keep getting updates to the software. It's a perpetual license, as they say. Just a short section now on KNX Secure, because I often get questions about security and how secure is KNX? Well, I say KNX is secure because the KNX organization have worked now for a number of years, and we have developed what's called KNX Data Secure and KNX, the name slips me at the moment, we'll get there in a second, sorry. But there's a white papers and everything on KNX Secure, and it talks and it goes into detail about the communications on the network, how we have to get everything together and how we can secure our network from hack attack, from people randomly connecting to it, from any sort of non-wanted communications on the network. How do we prevent that? And how do we stop unauthorized access? This is the important thing. So we look at access. What do we do? Well, in KNX Secure, we've got to make sure that we're not connecting straight to the cloud. I mean, if I leave anything exposed to the internet, of course, somebody is going to try and hack it. There are guys out there with bots that just go looking for unprotected ports on the internet. Once they find it, they're going to get into your network. We looked into the recommended ways of doing it, connecting via VPNs and via routers. You have secure ways to connect to your network now. There's no excuse to have an unprotected network exposed to the internet. And it's an important thing to remember. We look at KNX Data Secure and KNX IP Secure. So KNX Data Secure secures the communication between the devices on the KNX network. And what that means is that nobody can snoop it. Nobody can sit there on the KNX network and listen and see what's happening. It's all secured. The communication is encrypted and nobody knows what's happening. And as you saw previously where I showed you the LAN backbone in the network, what this means, of course, is that we are broadcasting KNX telegrams over our IP network throughout our building. Now, we could be on our own VLAN, but somebody might try and gain access to it. But what KNX IP Secure does, it envelops the KNX telegram in a secure IP telegram. So it can't be broken. It can't be broken into. And they are the two main ways that we secure KNX networks. And it's never an issue nowadays. We don't really have any challenges with security. Just a brief look now at some lighting control devices that we have. And of course, probably our biggest selling products, or one of our biggest selling products, of course, are our DALI gateways. So we have we've got 5 or 6 different types of DALI gateways. We have 1 channel, 2 channel. We can control up to 128 DALI devices per DALI gateway. We can handle emergency lighting. Of course, we're certified to DALI 2, and we can control color changing. We have human-centric lighting. All this sort of stuff is available now at these DALI gateways. So we can make fancy lighting control systems that change colors as the day goes along. We can do all that sort of stuff. Of course, we still have constant light control, 1 to 10 volts. And I always find it strange that no matter how many years I've been doing this, and I always think that this is a dying technology. And every time I say that, within a week or two, somebody's going to come and ask me, can we do this? And I'm going to say, yes, we can. We still have these devices available. And it's amazing how long this technology has lasted now. We also have LED dimmers. Of course, we have LED dimmers. Everything is controlled with LEDs nowadays. And the great thing about these guys is they can control, I think, down to 3 watts per channel, because we did have a problem if you go back maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, where when LEDs were becoming bigger and bigger into the market, the challenge was that going from 100 to 200 watt load on a channel with normal standard incandescent lamps, we were now getting LEDs with 2 or 3 or 4 watts per channel, and the dimmers didn't know what to do. So we've updated our whole dimmer range, and now we can control most LEDs are dimmable, and pretty much sure that we'll be able to do it. We have outside light sensors, of course. Very often we're asked to pick up sunrise and sunset. So we can do this, and we can, we can feed this information to the system and make decisions what we want on it. And to top it off, then we have presence detectors. So that's how most KNX systems work. You walk into a room, the KNX sensor will see you, turns on the light and leaves the light on until you're not in the room anymore. So works all the time, and they're very, very, very commonly installed. Another huge driver of these systems nowadays is energy efficiency. And of course, with KNX, yes, we care, because we have ways and means of limiting and reducing energy usage within a building. I mean, we have all this fantastic technology, and we can use it now to help us. So if we just have a lighting control system and we just say, have a time switch controlled, we're going to guarantee up to 10% energy savings. Now, I'll guarantee it. However, I have seen systems that were many, many years old and were never checked. And when you go and, maintain a system that hasn't been looked at for 5 years, and you find out that somebody has never switched the timer on, or the lights have just been on all the time. So it does need some maintenance and some checkup every now and then. But again, with presence detection added into it, we can get up to 20% energy saving. And if we use presence detection with brightness detection, we can save up to 40% of our lighting energy. And I'll show you now in a sec where I get these figures from, because when you think of blind control and you think of HVAC control as well, we have great savings that we can make in energy usage. If we allow the technology to do its job, we can save energy, and we can sell this to the customer as a good saving. I know what you see in front of you, this slide was from the University of Bremen many, many years ago. They had 2 rooms, R122 and 123, and they looked at these 2 rooms and said, okay, pretty similar usage, pretty much the same size, 2 lecture theaters. Let's KNX one, not KNX the other, and see what energy savings we can get out of the device. And you can see there straight away how much energy saving they had on the lighting side. So this was done in the university, and they did this over a number of years. And then they looked at the heating energy, and they looked at how much we were saving on that. And it was quite a bit of energy saved over the years. So I also remember a study we did in Dublin years ago, and the client wasn't 100% convinced that they wanted to do it. So I said, let's do this and let's have a look. So it was a 4-story building. And what they decided was, we're going to KNX 1 floor, and we look at the other floors, and we'll make everybody energy aware, and we'll talk to everybody, and we'll get everybody turning lights on and off, etc., etc. What we did then was we set everything up. We programmed the KNX system. Everybody knew what the game was, and off we went. And we came back 6 months later. And the funny thing was that 6 months later, if you looked at the floor that had just had normal switching on it, and if you looked at the KNX floor, you would see a graph like this. There were similar sort of usages, even with people being aware that we were trying to, we were trying to monitor the energy usage in the building. People get lazy, and unless you automate things, lights are left on all day. You go to many buildings now and you see, offices, nobody's sitting in the office and the light is on all day. Put a presence detector in there. It's screaming out for it. If I was to look at some applications for KNX, well, lighting control is usually a huge focus because every building needs lighting control. But we also have control of heating, ventilation, and cooling. And that I do a lot of those sort of jobs, say in hotels, places like that, where you go into your hotel room and everybody has a room temperature controller in the hotel room, which controls a local fan coil controller. Nicer hotels then will have blinds and shutter control where you can automatically open and close the blinds all the time. Bigger projects then tend to have energy load management and will always have a visualization in. So there's going to be a head-end PC somewhere and somebody's monitoring the whole project and having a look at the whole building. And then we get into your sort of your central automation and remote control, interfacing to other systems and presence detection, which is a huge part of all projects now. And when I look at buildings where I've installed KNX over the years, I would say, oh, you name it, we've been there. Offices, check. Apartments are done everywhere. We've hotels and restaurants, exhibition centers, sports stadiums, museums, churches, schools, universities, you name it. We have projects in these everywhere. If I look at sort of lighting control, we always have sort of local control. So we might have a locally controlled switch on the wall. We might have group control, central control, time control, motion control, or event control. All these different ways are ways to get great control of your lighting throughout the house. I did a project not so long ago, a nice house here. This guy had dollars to spare, as they say. And he had his outside lighting with outside presence detectors and outside sensors and daylight sensors. He had all sorts of stuff outside. So as the evenings were changing and dusk was coming earlier, he would automatically switch on the lights as dusk fell. So you arrive to the house, you could see the lights are on outside. You could see if there's anybody out there. It was a safety feature for him and his wife. But also then at night, these lights automatically turn themselves off. So he set up a group called sort of outside lights, and these lights are automatically controlled. At night, they switched off. At dusk, they come on. Everything was wonderful. We can also look at heating, and what can we do in each heating now? We don't see this too often in Australia, of course, but we have manifold heating for underfloor heating. We have thermal radiators for hydronic heating. We have all different types of heating controls. We have fan coil controllers, electrothermal valves, you name it. We have a full suite of products for heating and cooling. If I look now at, this is one of my colleagues' houses in Germany, and what he's done, and he's a KNX tutor in Germany. So he has done everything in his house is now KNX because he says, how else do I test it? And if you look at something like his awning there, his awning now is on a blind controller. It comes out in the morning when the sun is shining. He also has a weather station. And if it's too windy, if the wind gets above a certain speed, he'll pull the awning back in automatically to protect itself. You'll also see his ventilation on what he calls the winter garden there. Sun shining in there on a nice day, it gets a bit warm. So he just it just automatically opens the window. And that's similar to the roof window. The roof window itself is automatically controlled. So if there's any rain detected or if it's too windy again, that automatically closes it. And last but not least, on his outside window shutters, they're great for keeping the sun out on a hot day, but they also act as security. So in the morning when he's leaving the house, he sort of hits his all off button, shutters come down, lights go off, all the sockets turn off, and he knows the house is safe and secure. Perfect when he's leaving home. If I was to look at some example projects that we've done throughout Australia, well, one of the biggest ones we've probably done is the 3 Barangaroo Towers. These 3 towers here, these 3 business towers in Barangaroo. They're all ABB KNX Dali lighting control. So the whole fit out through all those towers is all ABB lighting control. It's a great project. Love it. We can also look at, say, the Monash University of New Horizons here in Melbourne. Again, we've done lighting control with all sorts of arrangements within that. You've switching, central time, daylight harvesting, we've central automation, and we've BACnet interface as well. We look at the next data centers. We've done quite a number of data centers at this stage. It seems to be, we're doing a lot of data centers. Seems to be Facebook is giving us a lot of work to do. I look at Green Square Close in Brisbane was another project that was pretty prestigious and nice. Another big project. We looked at 850 Collins Street. Here's another big project with full lighting control system in this. We look at the ANZ Tower in Sydney. This is one, it's an old project at this stage, but we'd solar shading, security and interface and air conditioning. Everything was put into this project, and it's quite a big project. You'll know this in Sydney. It's the Central Sydney Tower. We look at the City West Police Complex in Melbourne. We can look at Ravenhall Prison. So there's quite a wide range there of projects that we've done throughout Australia, and it covers quite a range of different buildings. Further information, where can you get more, as if I haven't told you enough and overloaded you? Well, of course, you have knx.org. This is everything about the KNX Association is here. You can log in here and you can get anything you want. Everything is stored in there. You just dig around, everything is in there. We also have an Australian KNX organization, and you can follow us on sort of all the usual places where we post. We've LinkedIn and Twitter and all these places, but this is all the local members here trying to grow KNX and trying to grow awareness of KNX within Australia. So have a look at that, please, and sort of, log on and you might see something that catches your eye in there. As regards ABB's products, we have a full range of products at abb.com/KNX. And this actually redirects you to a longer page name, but if you're looking for ABB products, go to abb.com/KNX. You will see here you have a link to all the products you can connect on. And further down the page, then there's also the catalogs and brochures, and there's training material. And if you look at the catalogs, we have the full product range overviews there. You can click on that, download it, save the link, keep it in a safe place. And the training, every time the factory runs some training, all the factory trainings are recorded. So this has been going on for a long time at this stage. You can go in and you can select KNX, you can select English, of course, and every training session that's been done on KNX products is available there for free use. All the webinar videos are there. The slides will be there as a PDF. So anything you need is there. All the information is there. And with that, that's me done. Thank you for your time, guys, and I'll hand back to our host.